Good, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Vince. Hopefully in a few moments I'll be joined by Gem Carmella. She's having some internet problems at the moment, so I'll just crack on with my normal shout outs and so on, and then we'll just keep on chatting until Gem is able to join us, because that's what happens. So firstly, thank you to everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel. That is really deeply appreciated. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. A little bit of news about a previous guest, and that is Pablo Absento. Spoke to her earlier this year about her short films. Pablo is based in Japan, and she talked at the time about a series of short films she wanted to make based on Japanese legends. The first of those is now going live tomorrow night, Halloween, on Fangoria. That's www.fangoria.com. I think sometimes referred to as Fangoria feed. So yeah, you'll have a chance to watch that tomorrow night. I've shared an event on Facebook. There's an event there if you want to get some more details, etc. But yeah, it'd be great. And if you click on the going button, then I think it shows people's interest. And I know I'm sure Pablo is sitting there anxiously wondering about how many people are going to watch the short film tomorrow night. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Just hello, Gem.
Yeah, finally made it. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. I'm just in the middle. I've just been doing a couple of shout outs. So let me just finish those, and then I will introduce you properly, and we'll carry on with that. But really nice to see you here. A special shout out to the London Horror Festival. As many of you probably know, I am this year's patron of the London Horror Festival. That's a huge honor as far as I'm concerned, and meant that I've got to see 18 out of 21 shows in the last 3 weeks. They're all live performances and just some amazing stuff. And they're finishing on a real high. Just as we speak at the moment, a gentleman named Dandy Darkly, the king of Halloween and New York's king of Halloween, is doing his storytelling. That was an amazing show. And then later this evening at 9:30, there is Skin Deep, which is all about Countess Bathory. That is just an amazing. It's by a group called Attila, and that's a wonderful. I'm still reeling from that. And then at midnight, a gentleman called Philip. Now I'm going to get his surname wrong. Oberlohr. I think he's Austrian. He's doing a show called Seance. Now, Philip is an illusionist, and he's recreating a Victorian seance. I saw it on Thursday night, and it's an illusion. We know this is an illusion. He tells us this has nothing to do with spirits, but I still cannot work out how he got me to choose a particular date. When he asked me to think of a date, I thought of a date. By the time he said, "Are you sure? Are you really sure?" I'd chosen exactly the right date that he needed for his show. It's amazing, extraordinary experience. And just a quick shout out, and Gem is in a similar situation to myself. For those of you who are not based in England, this is fireworks season. Next weekend is November the 5th, so we're getting lots of loud bangs. So if you hear any loud bangs in the background, it's not shooting, it's just fireworks. And if it's anything like last year, this will go on until like the 3rd or 4th week of November. Yeah, and Gem has also got a dog. Our dog Bertie is fine with fireworks. It doesn't seem to worry him too much. But you're saying, Gem, that yours is not happy about the fireworks?
So you may hear some howling.
Yeah, you're making it somehow. But anyway, Gem, welcome welcome to the show. You look lovely. You look
got Halloween sparkles on.
Yeah.
I've been wearing my Batman jumper all day, so I thought I better take that off because it's getting a bit scruffy.
I wish I'd actually. Dandy Darkly, who I would refer to earlier, he is top to toe in spangly lycra. Yeah. And just if you have a look Sandy Darkley, look him up on the website. Just an amazing storyteller, amazing look. But anyway, yeah, so we're actually here to talk about short-sighted cinema. But before we do that, we were going to talk about an event you've got happening on Thursday, the 3rd of November.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've got Short-Sighted Cinema have an event which is going to be lots of British-made short films, all with a kind of Halloween theme, and the event's called Screamathon, and that's going to be, that's right, on the 3rd of November at the Rich Mix in London. So if you're in London and you want to come down, we'd love to see you. Yeah.
Whereabouts in London is Rich Mix?
Rich Mix is actually pretty central. It's just up from sort of Liverpool Street Station, so it's just outside the city, really. It's just on the edge of Tower Hamlets.
Right.
Going towards Hackney almost, but not quite. Yeah. For those coming from the east side in London who like to go to our events, usually we do a lot in Hackney, but moved a bit more central for this one.
Right. I'm really looking forward to it. And you, who have you got? Which films you've got? One of Kate Shenton's?
Yeah, we've got one of Kate Shenton's. We're doing Sending the Clowns. I actually had everything up on a separate web page from my website. Just being a bit mad at the moment. The internet's sort of like disappearing and then coming back. I'm glad this is working. Yeah, we're showing 6 films in the main sort of block of short films. So we've got Kate Shenton Sending the Clowns. We've got a film called Nasty by Preno Bailey Bond. We've got Fest Evil, Lot 254. I hope I've got the numbers right for that one. And we've got Abigail Blackmore's film Vintage Blood, which I believe you're familiar with as well.
Yeah.
Have I covered them all? Yeah, I think that was 6, wasn't it? So I can look at them and go, are they all there? But as well as that, we have like a special selection of short films as a little warm-up, a more comedic warm-up. And these are a set of films which were made with a writing charity that I do a lot of work with called the Ministry of Stories. And they're based in Hackney, and they do lots of work with young people aged 8 to 18. And I did up a project with them to get young people aged 13, 14 to create short film scripts around monsters. So the idea was they were going to be monster monologues, and we got loads of professional filmmaking teams to then take on the scripts and make them into some really brilliant films. So there's 7 of those, so we'll be showing those at the beginning of the night, and giving the Ministry of Stories a massive shout out because they do brilliant things. Yeah.
That sounds really exciting. When did you start that project?
That project, I think it culminated at the end of May, and it's kind of, I put my short-sighted cinema hat on a little bit on that project. I helped them with the script writing, so we did 10 weeks of going into schools, working with a group of young people who'd chosen to do it out of their school hours. So they used their sort of extracurricular time to do it, which is amazing. None of them had even touched comedy writing before, and they're kind of comic stories, but with some of them have got quite a heartfelt edge because it's about kind of a confessional from the monster's perspective. So the monsters are kind of giving you a sort of confessional about their lives. Some of them are a little bit dark, but they've all got a sort of comedy twist to them. And it's really nice to sort of see where children of that age, they're not really children, they're young people at that age. And it was about getting them to sort of say, well, what do monsters mean to us at this age? I guess with little children, it's easy because it's balls and creaky things. And as you get older, you and I probably love monster movies. I certainly love monster movies. You've been in many.
1 or 2. Yeah, just 1 or 2.
Many creations. But it's that for that sort of younger teenage group, it was really interesting to see what monsters meant to them. So I'll be interested to see what you think of them when you come on.
It sounds fascinating. I was out yesterday with a lady called Catriona McCall, who's an actress I've mentioned a couple of times before. She was in a lot of Italian giallo movies, directed by a guy called Lucio Fulci, and we were meeting up because I'm going to be going to the south of France in November to I'm going to get the name of this wrong, Cinambule. I kept on wanting to call it Cinambule. It's Cinambule. And they do a fantasy strand. Basically, it's a short film festival over a weekend in a small town near Avignon in the south of France. And she was saying that the main audience that they get for these fantasy dark horror stuff are teenagers.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that age group are very definitely interested in this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, as I said, I'll be interested to see what you think of it, because it's about them not just being an audience, but actually getting inside the head of a monster and what actually being a monster meant to them. It's reveals some really nice stuff, actually. Some really nice stuff.
I'm really looking forward to this. This sounds really, really good. I'm so lucky. I mean, I've spent literally the last 3 weeks at London Horror Festival seeing some amazing stuff. What you can do in a small black box theatre in live, and it's a very interesting experience actually watching horror live, when you've actually got a real, like, not something on a screen, but they're right in front, 4 or 5 feet away from you in some instances. Quite extraordinary. Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, I'm really looking forward to that. And before we start talking about the history of Screamathon, we need to give a shout out to say that submissions are now open. Yes,
so I should probably say that Short Sighted Cinema, once a year, we have a kind of, I guess you call it a one-day film festival, just celebrating British short filmmaking, and we've just opened submissions for that, and that is called The Shortest Nights. The reason for that name is because we have it near the longest day of the year, the shortest night, which we thought, let's use the word short in as many creative ways as we can, basically.
This is what I went to.
Imagination, I don't know.
Yeah, because this is where I first met you, because I went to the Shortest Nights this year, and was that July?
It was actually like towards the end of June. I think it was the 19th this year.
Right.
Try and do it around the summer solstice.
So yeah, I'm really bad at dates. And how many films did you show?
Oh gosh, it was about. We had 5 programs, I think. No, 6 programs. I can't even remember. It was over 30, I think. I think Kate should be pinging me and chipping in. She's watching at some point. I should say as well, I don't do this on my own. There's another person. I'll just pretend she's hello. There's another person who runs Short Sighted Cinema with me, who's Kate Williamson, who couldn't be here for this interview. But she's very much the facts and figures person a lot of the time. So sometimes I'll be like, hang on, let me just check that. But yeah, is a hell of a lot of shorts. You went to every program, didn't you? I
think I missed one. I think I missed, but there was some amazing stuff. I was talking to you earlier on and saying that basically a couple of them really, really haunted me, because it's not just short fiction, you do documentary as well. So probably the ones I remember most was the one called Truants.
Yeah.
Which is a very simple idea, and for those who know their British history, they'll recognize the name Jamie Bulger, and it was very much that, and that was a very difficult watch. I found that a really disturbing. It was very, very well done, and it's like a feature film called Cruel Summer, which I saw at Fright Fest. Just really stuck with me, absolutely stuck with me. The other one which I really liked was a documentary on a newspaper seller in Crouch End in North London.
Oh, yes.
Because I went to drama school in Crouch End, and I passed that newsstand. So back in the 1980s. That
was 7 days a week, that film.
Yeah, it was absolutely...
It's almost quite heartbreaking, isn't it? In a way?
It is. Just to kind of... It's called 7 Days a Week. Just to explain it a little, it is about literally a newspaper stand and what it takes... Because he starts at, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, something like that. Just would it be helpful if I add links to the filmmakers in the comments afterwards?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah. If you wait about 20 minutes or so after the end of the show, because YouTube does this thing, the comments that people put up in the show whilst we're live disappear. And then we put comments up. But what I can do is I can also put it in the description as well. But yeah,
and then we can link. I can
with some of these wonderful filmmakers, because it was like. So submissions are now open. I've definitely got a link to Shorts' Untitled Cinema in the description on this YouTube show at the moment, so people can follow. And it's British filmmakers you're looking for.
Yeah, so our kind of remit is British short film, but what that means is a short film that is got either made here in the UK or made by British filmmakers. So say you're a British filmmaker working elsewhere in the world, you're still eligible. But if you're also a filmmaker from overseas, but you've made a film in the UK, or you're in the UK studying, you've made the film while you're here, you're eligible. So, Kate's just messaged me. It was 49 films. So on one day, we had 49 short films. Some of the best British shorts that we found. There was a hell of a lot more even. So the subsequent events that we're now putting on include some of the films that we wanted to show then, but kind of couldn't fit into programs. It's worth saying as well that we're trying to make these film submissions accessible for everyone. So the first film is free.
Right.
So you get a free submission. Don't tell one if you're not eligible. We just won't watch it.
That's brilliant. Okay, so all right, so Screamathon is happening on Thursday of next week, and I shall definitely be there. I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully I'll get to see, and really looking forward to seeing the films I have seen and those I haven't seen as well. And then submissions are now open, and we've been talking about short-sighted cinema, so let's wind the clock back now and go right back. So how did short-sighted cinema come into being? Whose bright idea was this?
Well, in a sense it was Kate's bright. Kate took the name, and she was already part of a short film night that was going on in a gallery in Bermondsey, and that was called Vibe Shorts. And she had an idea, I believe, Kate will correct me if I'm wrong, to create a kind of online magazine to sort of review short film, talk about short film. And I came on board and met her because I was a jobbing actor and I needed an excuse to see more films for free. So I like writing as well. So I thought I'd do some reviews for her in exchange for seeing lots of short films. What quickly became apparent was that there was lots of amazing British short film that just had no airing anywhere. You just never saw them unless you looked for them. And so Kate wanted to put on an event, but Kate isn't that happy in front of a microphone or in front of a camera. So she was like, Gem, you're an actor. Could you come and host the event? And so Short-Sighted Cinema was born out of this first event where we kind of had a group of short films that Kate had curated, and I hosted it. And then after that I said, you know what, I like the idea of programming the shorts myself too, so can we do this together? And then the rest is history, and that was about 3 years ago.
Right. And so how many short-sighted days have you done?
Oh, we used to do a monthly event. For anyone who knows London, we used to do a monthly event at the Rixie in Brixton, and we used to do it in the upstairs bar screen, and that was really, really fun. So we were there every month for about a year, maybe just over a year, and then we found that we were getting a bit too big for that space, so we started doing less events but trying to make them bigger. And then now we're sort of not doing as many events, but hopefully trying to get the quality higher, trying to make the experience a bit more than just going to the cinema. So we often have events that incorporate live elements as well. So we're sort of mixing it up. So I couldn't tell you exactly how many were done, but it's on the website. Again, Kate might ping me in a minute with how many.
Right. So you've got, and then one of the types of events that you're talking about, and this is one of the reasons why I was so fascinated by you guys, because I thought this is a really interesting model for there must be people elsewhere in the world doing similar things. I know a lot of my audience is from America and so on. So Oh, and this is your dog. We can.
He wants to be included.
He's so cute. He's really. Bertie, I know, is downstairs with Craig, my husband, just sitting on the sofa going, "Oh, it's so boring. Everyone keep on ignoring me." So this is it. Yeah. So you do live events. You screen films regularly. Is there a particular style of short film that you look for? What's the sort of criteria what sort of criteria are you looking for in terms of length? What to you guys is a short film?
Yeah, see, we say sub 25 minutes. So that's kind of, that feels like long enough, really. And if it's going to be longer than that, then it needs to be amazing. So there have been a few films that we've seen that are slightly longer than that and are amazing, so we've programmed them. But the reason we say 25-minute cutoff for us is just because of the way we program. So we do program just short, so we don't ever sort of send people one short film and say, oh, this is one we've recommended. We don't really do that. So everything we do is about an event of short film. So if you have one short film that's 40 minutes long, then it means that the smaller short films that go with it kind of don't really become part of that program. They almost feel like an add-on to that film. So we try and create a balance, and that is also to do with time length. If we have too many 2-minute films, then you start feeling as an audience like, oh, what's going on? Oh, one narrative, another narrative, another narrative. And that also is overwhelming. So we try and just balance the experience. So that's kind of how we look at the shorts, and feeding into that is also the sort of spread of short form content that we look at, and we look at all of it, really. So we've shown music videos, we show comedies, we show documentaries, dramas, we've shown art films, dance-based films, so the whole spectrum really of short form film, a lot of poetry-based films. So yeah, as long as it works with the films that we then build alongside it, and the program, the sort of level of quality, the level of engagement feels correct, feels organic, then any short film, he goes again.
It's like having a little werewolf in the background.
He is at the moment as well. He's really, he's a bit out of sorts.
Oh, bless him. Oh, bless him.
I'm sorry. My housemate's here, but I think she's just sort of staying out of the way.
So what do you've said that you've already opened submissions for the Shortest Nights. When's your closing date for the submissions?
We're going to have we've kind of got a few cutoff points, so I'd need to double check that, which I can't because I'm not online. But I think it's next, I mean, it's not until next year, because it'll be again the midsummer point that we screen. So I think it's probably around the sort of beginning of April, thereabouts. But if you go on to, we're using Film Freeway as our submission platform.
Right.
If anyone's interested and they click on it, they'll see on that. And then there's a couple of deadlines, because we've got at the moment a super early bird. So if you did send in one more film, you only pay a phenomenal amount for that second film at the moment, and then it just gradually gets a bit more expensive. But we do try and keep it as cheap as we can, really.
It's interesting. I think one of the things, having now gone through this experience over the last year with The Night Whispered, you look at some of the short film submission fees, and they're $60 and $80.
It just doesn't feel right, does it? But that said, I mean, Kate and I really struggle to even break even on short cinema, and I think it's important to say we're a CIC, so we're kind of a social enterprise, so we're not really allowed to make a profit anyway. Everything we make as a profit gets reinvested, but at this point we're not even breaking even. So it's sort of, you're doing it for the love of it, and also because every now and again we get films from, say, a 17-year-old or someone who's been working in another career and is in their 50s and 60s, and they're making their first short film, and maybe they don't have the funds to be sending to all these different festivals, but you would never see them if you had a extortionate entry fee. But if you had an extortionate entry fee, you'd be able to, you know, afford to live when you haven't got any. So it's a balance. I can sort of see how some independent festivals would put the price up a bit in order to cover the cost of the festival, but for us, we're sort of trying to do it for the love of it a bit as well.
And obviously, I think sometimes they put it up just because, you know, the bigger the festival gets, the more well known it is, then they're actually doing it just kind of as a barrier to entry, just to make sure, you know, you've got to be really committed just to make sure that they're a kind of a weeding out process. When you're, okay, so let's talk about some practical stuff. You're saying it's via Film Freeway. Any filmmaker who's watching this, I'm sure, is familiar
and that's
with
an international platform. I think it's actually an American company.
Canadian.
Right,
I'm pretty certain it's Canadian because they were the guys who managed to break the patent that Without a Box had got. Without a Box. I really looked into this when I made a short film, because basically Without a Box, which is now owned by Amazon, which everybody is not happy with, because they really don't seem to be, you know, it's got a fairly bad reputation at the moment.
Really?
Yeah. So I think everyone's moving over to Film Freeway because it's so when you sit down and you watch these films, how many films do you, on average, you know, how many for the last event? Do you remember kind of the sort of ballpark numbers?
I think it was over 700 that were eligible. I think we get sent a lot that aren't eligible, and it makes me sad actually, because people from other countries that aren't eligible in any way will sometimes send us like 6 or 7, and then they've spent money on it, and I feel sad for them. And I'm also like, read the T's and C's. We get it was about, I think it was just over 700 that were eligible, and last year it was like about 1,000. But last year we didn't have any submission fee. We just had it completely free, I think. So then we put on the tiered fee this year because, well, one, we couldn't manage the festival without it. But two, it was, again, it's a slight filtering. So even though it's a cost, it's a small cost, but it stops people not reading the T's and C's, I think. So we've got less ineligible submissions this year, putting that little cost on. Which
was the point I was making before. That's really interesting. And that thing of submitting to the wrong thing. I was talking to one of the organizers of the London Horror Festival last night, my friend Maud, and she was saying that because they do a drama writing competition to kick the festival off, and the theme was badass women. And
I like that. I wish I'd entered that.
It was. I missed I missed the evening. I know for various reasons, and I'm just so, because apparently it was wonderful. The winning entry is absolutely brilliant. But she was saying, like, people don't it's called Badass Women. And one of the ones that she rejected was basically 2 women after the zombie apocalypse talking about their ex-boyfriend, and it's just and it's like, no, you're really missing the point here. It's just like,
oh gosh,
but I think, you know,
it's linked to the Bechdel test.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. The Bechdel test. It didn't make my remember, but I know exactly. Yeah, precisely. But it's that thing. I think when you've made a short film, because it takes an awful lot to make a short film. You know, huge amounts of time and energy, and working with other people and so on. And so you know, as a producer director, you feel very responsible for what the success of your film. You just have this hope thing going on, and you know, you're going to submit it to absolutely everything, just in the hope, even though, you know, logically in your mind it doesn't sound, you're just like, well, I've got to try. Yeah, because there's just this little thing of it. So 700 films is an awful lot. How many people are reviewing it?
We're a 2-girl show. Yeah, it is us 2. So we put ahead. That's why we're definitely not breaking it. And I don't mind saying that. We know a lot of our filmmakers. We've got a really good relationship with them. They know we're doing this for the love of it. And, hopefully it will convert to something at some point. But you know, we put a hell of a lot of time in watching all of the films, and then obviously once you shortlist, you watch again. So there's at least two watches of the bulk of them. So hundreds will get watched twice. And then when you're curating programs, you often watch third and fourth time, maybe not all the way through, but just to check that there's a balance in each program. And I should say as well, we don't kind of have preset programs. We wait for the films to come in, and then we look at what the zeitgeist is that year. This year, everyone was writing really gripping stories about childhood, and so the program that you saw Truants in, which we called Childhood in Flux, No Fairy Tales Here, that was kind of children in a really fantastic life. Like, I express that really badly, but they, you know, really living through some grit, as you described in Truants. So there was so many films that fit that kind of tone, where it was just children sort of about 9-10 years old, just in really like not idyllic circumstances basically. And last year it was boxing films. Every other film was a boxing film. So it's interesting. So we try and pay attention to that, because that's obviously saying something about what people are trying to express through short films in that climate. So we try and pay attention to that, those sort of zeitgeists. And then also there's always the odd sort of real standout film that as soon as you watch it, you get, and you'll know this from watching shorts, you'll just get really excited, like, oh, what, this made me think about all these things, or this showed me a technique I've never seen before. It wasn't imaginative how they did that twist. And then those films kind of immediately attract other films to them, because they've opened up your imagination as a programmer, I guess. And so those films often help to shape where our programming goes. So we kind of, we let, I guess, the submissions dictate how our programs end up.
Right.
That was a long-winded way of saying that.
Well, no, I was curious about that, because you say you grouped films together very interestingly. So yeah, I was fascinated by that process. Okay, so how many hours then do you spend? How long does that whole process? Presumably you do them as much as possible as they come in.
Yeah, and then we do bulk sittings though. So we watch, you know, as they're trickling in now, we'll watch sort of 1 or 2 a week, but then we go through phases where we'll be like, right, today we're going to get through 100, or and we'll usually have a weekend or a day or an evening each. Kate and I are both night owls, which does help. So we'll usually be like, oh, have you seen this one yet? Oh, have you seen that one yet? And we have a colour coding system. So I have my colour, she has hers. We make sure we cover all the films, and then we flag ones that we think the other one should watch, and have little comments and things. So it is a long process. And we had a debrief after this one, and we kind of thought, actually, it's sort of months of work just watching the films. You know, so hours and hours. And if some of them are sort of 20-minute films, which a lot of them are, then, you know, you get through 5 and that's 100 minutes gone. Just like, wow, time just goes. So yeah, it's a lot of energy.
If I just had a comment, I think from Matt, and I think this might be Matt Majeski, I'm not sure. I genuinely applaud short film festivals. So many hundreds of fantastic filmmakers out there. So many hundreds of fantastic filmmakers out there creating amazing content. It's important work that you are doing, Gem.
Thank you. High five. I look like a hit, but it's meant to be.
Yeah, high five. Yeah, high five. A virtual high five.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Okay, so you obviously you've locked. What do you think are the common mistakes that short filmmakers make? Are there things that you see and you think, oh yeah, they've done? What's the sort of stuff?
Yeah, I would say it's consistency. So the best advice we could give, and Kate will agree with me on this, is work with your means. And if you don't have many means, don't chuck everything you have at one effect and then let the rest of the film suffer. It's about looking at what your resources are, looking at your means, looking at what you can beg, borrow and steal. Consistent film, because what often lets films down is that they'll have a brilliant story, really great cast, it's not lit properly and we can't hear it, and then it's just not it won't communicate to an audience very well. It's just something we can't screen. The other end of the spectrum is everything will be thrown at the visuals, it will look beautiful, everyone's wearing amazing costume, it's got wicked effects, and then they didn't get a writer, and so the script is dire, or the story's just not tight enough, or it's really so it's about balancing out those resources and basically thinking about the best way of telling the story you're trying to tell across the board, not just in one facet of the short film, I guess.
Therefore, do you kind of think there's a kind of a sweet spot in terms of a short film length, or is it, it's just going to depend on the story you're trying to tell?
Yeah, I mean, I personally am really, really hooked in when I have a good narrative. Kate looks for Kate likes a different type of film in general, be more attracted to a different, more visual film, whereas I get really hooked into a good story. So between us, I guess, we can we can like films of any length. And as I say, there have been the 26, the 27 minuters that have got in because they've been brilliant films. And actually, when we think about the film, there's not really anything we want to cut. So it's really about telling the story. And equally, there's some brilliant 3-minute films that make you feel like you've had a whole journey and it's been 3 minutes. So yeah, I think that's another thing, and that's something that I imagine comes with experience, is really being able to gauge how long is right for your story. If you have got a really meaty narrative, perhaps it does need a bit longer. If you're working on an aesthetic with a little quirky twist, perhaps it doesn't need to be very long at all. But it's about serving your story or what you're trying to express, I think.
Right. Now that you mentioned the events that are mostly based in London, but I think you do other things and you try and get short films into other venues and so on. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So what we're really keen to do, and what we've done a bit of, is working with cross arts events. So be that music festival or theatres or organisations like the British Council we worked with last year. We're really keen on basically giving short film a life beyond film festivals. So even if you're lucky, and as you say, get your film into all the festivals you target, once festival series is over, it's very difficult for that film to have a life. But when there's so much merit in the filmmaking coming out of British filmmakers, you're just like, why should it end there? So what we're looking at exploring is partnerships with other arts events. So we've done quite a few sort of music and arts festivals. We've done the last 2 years at, the last 2 events at In the Woods Festival, who are, great bunch of people. That's a really kind of definitely a cross arts event rather than just a music festival. They have theatre, they have arts and crafts, they have folk music and quizzes and comedy and poetry. It's brilliant. And we've had a cinema tent there for the last 2 events that they've had, and that's been amazing. And the spectrum of audience we have there, from little tiny children to sort of elderly couples that have come for the weekend, it's just beautiful, like, to see that. Because you go to film festivals, and without wanting to sound negative towards film festivals, everyone's in the festival, or a filmmaker, or someone that goes to festivals. Like, very, very rarely do you get an audience at a film festival that is just a punter that's never been to a film festival before, or never seen a short film before. But by bringing it out to other events, you're getting people that potentially have never seen a short film, and that's a really lovely thing.
It sounds really fascinating. I think I've never been where. I'm sure my friend Katie Bonham. I'm sure I know people who've actually been to In the Woods.
In the Woods, it's a lovely one in sort of on the edge of Kent. It's really, really nice festival in a woodland location. But we had some films via the Lost Picture Show, a few of our shorts were taken to Shambhala and I can't remember the other one we went to, another festival last year. And we also took some films to another sort of independent festival that some of my mates won, called Field View Festival, and we had a very, very late night program there. And that was quite fun. The audience that you get in at like 2 a.m. to see a bunch of comedy horrors is really interesting when you're at a live music festival. It's really nice, actually, because it's you become the place that people go when they don't want to sleep yet, when they still want to engage in something, but they've already been partying for about 10 hours. So it's quite fun.
No, it is interesting. We have discovered, ascertained it is Matt Novak who asked the question, who's connected with Deadfest. So thank you very much for the question, Matt. Another one that's come in from a gentleman called Paul Yan. Let me just try and phrase this. Do you think it's interesting, you've stated you're really concentrating on British filmmakers. Do you feel that the way you tell a story doesn't always translate well to foreign audiences? The way of use and do you think there is any, because you're talking about working with the British Council, which obviously takes British culture abroad. Mm-hmm. Did you kind of encounter anything where you think that no, this is just not good? We will all understand it because we understand this, but did you find that there's anything like that?
For that British Council project, that was a one-off project, and that was to do with building a learning resource out of short film, which was a really fascinating way of using it, and as far as we know, it went down really well. And for that, we actually managed to find, we had a few films that were very British, with very British characters, and that was for International Day of Older Persons. So it was older real documentaries, older people in them. But we did have a couple of British filmmakers who'd made films in other countries. Or made films with someone who was an expat from another country. So one of the films that I really liked was a film called Aunty Ganga, which is about a couple that had come on because he'd been come over because he'd been a Gurkha. So an elderly Nepalese couple, and it was about the filmmaker's auntie who, she was sort of living in, I think it's Aldershot, somewhere like that. Yeah,
it's a big army town, yeah. Aldershot.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'll double check that. But that she was finding it hard to assimilate with the culture around her, but also had her fellow sort of Gurkha wives around her as well that was sort of holding her up. And there was some beautiful scenes in that. And so that was a really nice way of having an international feel to something that was actually British made. And then there was another film with a British filmmaker who'd spent a lot of time in Japan and met an elderly Japanese man who had been a Hiroshima survivor. And so that again had a very global feel to it, although it was a British filmmaker who'd spent time in Japan. So yeah, for that we managed to find films that kind of crossed the spectrum. And the film that I think went down the best is a very, very British film called Born to be Mild, which is about the Dole Men's Club.
I've heard of this.
We showed it recently on our little Metro stint. It's a brilliant film, and it's a very British film, I'd say. Even though the vice president chair, I think I've got that right, of the Dole Men's Club, I think is American, certainly from North America. But it feels very British because it's about all of these hobbies that these men have that are very, very quirky, sort of, letterbox spotting and roundabout spotting and brick collecting and milk bottle collecting, which just feels so British. But apparently that went down a treat. So
it's absolutely fascinating. Craig and I were traveling back. I mentioned Philip Oberlach earlier on. We went out for lunch with Philip earlier on the train on the way back. Couple behind us because there's things, the trains were being rerouted today because they were doing engineering works, and this gentleman behind us was giving the most fascinating history of railways in London.
Wow.
Talking about explaining to the gentleman why he needed to go to different. He would have to take a different route, and therefore he couldn't go to this, that, and the overground. But he was good. He was telling them how the Victorians, how Charing Cross Station, for anyone who knows London, used to be a cattle market. He's talking all about the trains that were built specifically to take the coffins, the deceased, to the different stations, you know, when they were shipping basically the dead bodies out of London, which also travelled in different classes. So if you were in first class, you went to a different part of the cemetery. I'm trying to think the name of the train, basically the dead train, you know, the trains for the dead. And I was like, yeah, this is really interesting to listen to. You do have these men who just have a passion about something, and I think that's just men of a certain age. The Dull Men's Club. I really do want to see this movie because it sounds fascinating.
You look up the Dull Men's Club is a thing, so you just look it up. They're great.
Yeah.
They're great. They're amazing.
We've got about another 10 minutes or so left and so on. Well, you mentioned that you're also an actress as well as doing short-sighted cinema and so I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. But what are you working on at the moment? You also said you're doing writing, so you know.
Yep. Well, at the moment, it might be a long time coming, but I'm looking at developing a follow-up show to a show that I did in 2014 called Super Badass Action Hero. Funny enough, hence I was so excited by your badass woman. And that was a live comedy show, so it was basically my first go at doing stand-up. But as a performer, I come from a writer-performer comedy background. So I did a lot of sketch comedy quite a few years ago now. But yeah, so I was sort of on the sketch circuit in London quite a lot with a few others. Did a few Edinburgh shows, and then sort of went more towards, or I guess when, you know, the job started coming up, I was doing a lot more drama on screen. So predominantly as an actor, I'm a screen actor, so I'll do sort of TV and starting to do a bit of film. I've done loads of short films. I tend not to try and show myself in any of the ones we have on, unless I'm like a fleeting background that you barely notice me. But yeah, it's so yeah, at the moment, hopefully there's an ad, but I can't confirm anything. So ads are great. I mean, I'm assuming you've probably done a few ads yourself.
I've not actually. No. You know, because basically I took a long time out of my acting career to go off and do a proper job and get a mortgage and a house. So I've only returned, and I was looking at my because I'm building a new website at the moment. Oh, happy joy. I've spent far too much time looking at website design and choosing fonts.
Yeah, we spoke about this because I'm doing mine at the moment. Kate's helping me.
it's like I was talking about. I've so far in the last week and a half, I've spent over 100 hours working on my website, building a new website. And it's nearly there, folks. And keep, you know, have a look at nicholasvince.com because I've put a lot of work into it. There is, and tomorrow there will be a newsletter. People can sign up for a newsletter tomorrow. Yeah, that's the next thing I have to get done on there. Sorry, I have no idea why I'm talking about website design.
No, it's fine. I think we're tapping into the whole thing of being jobbing actors, and it's, you know, it's a nice position in some ways to be able to kind of, you know, you can walk down the street and people don't know who you are, but you know, you can still be on TV a couple of times a year, and it's but also, you know, you want to get more secure acting work. So it's about hustling. I guess that's why you brought in the website, because you're constantly having to sell yourself to the world, aren't you? And it's like, yes, I can do things, I can work, I can. But yeah, adverts have been really a bit of a lifeline actually in the last couple of years. They're sort of hard to get, but when you get them, they can sort of sustain you for a while. So that means you can then take time off and write or create, you know. I sort of also want to do a bit of more film stuff. Doing the Ministry of Stories films, I kind of did quite a lot of producing for that, so that was quite interesting. So that might be something I explore again. So you know.
It's interesting. I think, you know, as an act, I mean, obviously, you know, I've kind of moved from writing and acting into film, doing short films, and I'm currently working on some more scripts and hope to get, you know, start filming again. It won't be this year, but, you know, it's early next year at the, you know,
well, don't you?
yeah. Do you, as an actor, do you, and you're sitting there as an actor, watching all these short films and so on, do you feel that influences the way that you look, you know, you just think, okay, are you looking at the acting?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think actually that's something that Kate and I don't notice in the same way. I'm very sensitive to what I don't think is a good performance. Yeah, I think I can't, you know, I think you sort of have that bias that you're like, that could be better, this could be better cast, you know, you can't really deny that as an actor. You're always looking at how people perform, and my rule of thumb is if I don't notice that they're performing, it's a great performance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
people trying. If you can see people sort of remembering their lines as they're saying them, then you're like, oh, I've noticed you're being an actor. Like, oh.
You've just
because different films like comedies, you can do so much sort of on purpose. You can do a lot very awkwardly on purpose. So in that sense, like, awkward performances sometimes are really great, or overdone performances are sometimes really great. So again, it comes down to what kind of film it is, as to how sensitive you are to the performance style, I guess.
It's I mean, I find it very interesting. You've just reminded me of the moment when I was working on a short film last year, and the director just said to me, "Nick, I feel as if you're just saying lines." And I thought, yeah, that's really what's happening here, isn't it? I'll try harder now. It was a great piece of direction, and I just thought, I really appreciate you being so honest with me, because that's what it felt like. I will, yeah, give me a moment. I'll gather myself. Let me see if I can find the truth of what it is I'm actually do that. So, but it is. You were talking about comedy just then. I saw a short film that I was in called Rats, directed by Mark Logan, for the first time the other day. And I was thinking, you know, I swear he's edited a better performance than I gave.
Good editor. Good job making you better.
Because I think, you know, that is the, you know, because I think that's I was talking to my mate Simon Bamford about this the other day. You know, he was talking about the fact he's in a feature film at the moment that's just coming out. He's only got a small role in it. And he was saying that there was a great moment when he was doing it, and, you know, he took his glasses off to deliver a piece of news. And, you know, he got real encouragement from the camera. He said, you know, that's great. That's a really good, you know, nice moment. You know, just make sure you do it at exactly the same moment when we try, you know, we do the different angles, etc. And of course, it doesn't appear in the movie, of course.
Of course it doesn't.
So all that happens is you see him with, you know, with glasses on, and then without them, and magically he's not got glasses on.
Oh, that's bad.
I suspect. Yeah, I suspect it's actually covered by the, you know, the reverse angle on the, you know, the star of the film rather than, you know, than on him. But it is a fascinating thing as an actor, is that you, again, having done the London Horror Festival, this is the purest form of performance, where it is you and the audience, and everybody knows exactly what's going on, etc. But when you're acting for films, you really are in the hands of the director, the editor, the colorist, and so on.
Yeah. And sometimes the money people who are like, no, the film's too long, hack that scene.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think this is what DVD extras are all about, is the fact that, you know, you can get to see some of the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor, or would have ended up on the cutting room floor normally. So again, Paul Yan has just asked another question. Gem saying, you know, in your ideal life, would you'd have a nice TV series or something just to keep regular acting work going?
I really like working, so I'm like, I don't feel mega fussy about what it is, as long as I like the character and the job, really. So, but I love screen acting. So when it comes to live performance, I've not really done a great deal of theatre, straight theatre. Comedy has been my live performance, which is, a whole other kettle of fish in terms of how the audience can just respond to you directly. But yeah, I think I love films predominantly. So if I could just pick a role out of the sky, it'd be, you know, a really amazing, you know, a really lovely film role that kind of, that gets, I guess, gives you the vehicle to get your teeth stuck into something, because that's what you want to do as an actor. It's not about going, you know, wanting to be the star that everyone knows and turns up to all the events. Well, not for me. I mean, I like to party, but it's not, that's not what it's all about. Certainly at this stage of my life, but you know, it's about being given the opportunity to get your teeth into something. So yeah, a series would be great, you know, really meaty. I love it. I love like a thriller, and there's some great British sort of thrillers on, you know, that are sort of coming through at the moment, and great British dramas that are coming through. So yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. No, absolutely. Cool. Well, we're coming to the end of the show.
Oh. Never mind. I do apologise for the woofing and barking.
Oh, bless
him. I know, he's had so many treats today just to get through the fireworks. So on the one hand, he's very happy. On the other hand, he's like, "Stop banging, Sky! What are you doing?"
You know, for Bertie, it's, you know, the evil fox that comes into the garden is the thing that really sets him up. He's not terribly happy, I think, with the bangs that go on. We just had a very, Paul, thank you very much indeed for your last question. I think we've covered it about prefer live audience or none. That, I think they're just different, basically. You know,
yeah, I'd agree with you, Nick. It's like, they're just different. There's something amazing about having people in front of you in the same room, breathing the same air. And with comedy, I mean, when I used to do sketch comedy, my colleagues in our troupe used to just say, "Gem, you can't get through a show without corpsing." But the corpsing, you know, where basically you'll do something and the audience will laugh, and you'll just laugh and you can't stop laughing, and then the audience laugh even more, and then you're looking at the audience and basically like, yeah, you're laughing. And like that, there's something really beautiful about that. And then on the odd occasion I go to see a play, and that happens in a non-comedic moment, and the actor acknowledges it. It's beautiful. And so there's something that you know, there's a point that you can reach with an audience that is really unique, and unless you've ever been in that situation as a performer that's experienced it, it'd be really hard to understand. But there is something beautiful about being in a room with an audience. But equally, I love the camera. I love it. I love working for camera. I love the subtleties that you can work with. I love that, you know, you can use a voice that's natural to the situation that you're presenting, rather than having to always project necessarily. Sorry, my hands just went all over the screen. They look really red. They're not covered in blood, I can guarantee that.
That's always good to know. That's good to know. You haven't just come in from having murdered somebody to do the interview.
After all. So I hope that answered your question. I agree.
It's just interesting. Funny enough, I was, again, one of the shows that was in the London Horror Festival was a thing called Twins Macabre, which, if you ever have a chance to watch Twins Macabre, folks, funnily enough, the actors Nick and Adam are both in Kate Shenton's feature film Egomaniac. They played the leads in that.
I really want to see.
Yeah, you've got to see it. You will love Egomaniac.
They're performers, aren't they? They work as a double act.
They work as a double act, and they've got these characters, the Twins Macabre. And this one, they were talking about it, is basically what's different is the fact that they. You can check out the interview that I did with them on my Vimeo channel for more details. But it was that thing of, during the show, it was their first night when we went to see it. I mean, they had everything thrown at them, including the guy in the front row who threw up during the performance. And they just kept going. They worked it into the show. But there were a couple of moments where, you know, Nick got the line slightly wrong, because obviously they were actually playing the Twins Macabre. They're playing all the characters. They were playing the policemen who are investigating the crimes of the Twins Macabre. And at the point, you know, the gag was they're going to interview one of the twins. and obviously she got it wrong. Basically, she would have had to have interviewed herself.
Right.
It's just that moment where he cottoned on, she cottoned on, the audience cottoned on exactly what had happened. It is amazing. There is.
It's a lovely feeling, and even as an audience member, you're just like, I'm in on the joke.
And then again, as you're saying, there is just something when you're just sitting in a quiet room, utterly being that character. There's a little bit of your brain that makes sure that I can't move too much out of focus. I've got but it's extraordinary. Gem, this has been really good fun, as I expected it was going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I'll wrap up just by reminding people, if you're in London, do come along on Thursday and watch some great short films, and if you're there, do please say hello to us.
Do come and talk to both of us, and I'll introduce Kate as well. Shall we?
Yeah.
We'll be there.
No, absolutely. Just remind people that next week Paul Davis is joining me to discuss American Werewolf in London. Paul did one of the early fan documentaries on American Werewolf in London, has recently published a beautiful hardback book on that. It's, a lot of the material he wasn't able to get into the documentary, he got into the book, and he's also
that 2 nights ago.
Did you?
Yes.
We're going to see a special screening for the 35th anniversary at the Prince Charles Cinema in London, which Paul is introducing. I think it's the 12th of November. I'm sure I'll put it up on the website when mine is going. And then, of course, the week after, the Soska sisters are joining me for the show as well. And I've got some other guests which I will be scheduling. But keep an eye out for the newsletter on my website, because that's going to be Craig is now taken over running my newsletter, so it is going to come out monthly rather than once a year, which is what I've managed to maintain so far. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up now and just say thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Bye.
This has been Chattering with Nicholas Vince. I've been chattering with Gem Carmella about short-sighted cinema. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Paul Davis. In the meantime, enjoy the fireworks and have a really spooky, safe, and not too many treats and not too many tricks on Halloween tomorrow. Good night, folks. Take care. And I'm going to hit the stop broadcast button.